I hate everything about you. Why do I love you? Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal cinema, and then we talk about it. And we sit in the parking lot, we share our feelings, we give you the old gut reaction to the film we just saw, and then hopefully you listen to it, and hopefully that helps you decide, should I see this movie? Also, bear with us, you might hear fireworks tonight, because it is the 4th of July.
Woo! America!
I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and happy 4th of July to you if you're in America and celebrate that holiday. If you're somewhere else, we still welcome you. This episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies is, I think, themed perfectly to the holiday.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commentary in this film, surprisingly, about the state of America. The film that we saw is called The Forever Purge. It's another installment in the Purge series, of which I've seen none to this point. Have you seen any?
Big fat zero.
Zero. Okay. So we're jumping in at a certain point, but I think all you need to know about Purge movies is that there's this thing called The Purge, which is one day a year where people can do whatever they want.
That's pretty fair. Although I do feel like not that either of us saw the last Purge movie, but I feel like based off of the beginning of this movie, the last Purge movie ended with them getting rid of the Purge and it not being a thing anymore. Due to the first 3 minutes of opening dialogue where it's explained that new people got elected and now it's back.
The Purge is back, yeah.
So
yeah. So
sucks for you if you saw the last movie.
Yeah. Well, they decided to make another one. Bring back the old Purge. So who's in this movie? No one I recognized is my answer. Did you pick up on anyone that you were like, oh, it's that guy from that thing?
I did, yes. Let's see. The guy who was one of the main Americans of the movie, I should say. I believe his name is, I'm about to find out. Yes, Josh Lucas, who's been in a good amount of different stuff. He was in Ford versus Ferrari, which we saw, and he was Leo Beebe.
Okay.
And he's Glory Road. Sweet Home Alabama was him, I think. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's not like super, super famous, but he has been in
He's had a career.
Amount of stuff. And then the guy who plays his dad was the guy who was Coach Yost in Remember the Titans.
Oh, okay.
Will Patton is his name.
Gotcha.
And then I'm just trying to confirm. Yes, I knew I saw this woman before. The main almost the main character of the movie is this couple. The wife of that couple was in Army of the Dead, which we just saw. Mm-hmm. She was also in Nacho Libre. Mm-hmm. And she's been in a couple other different things. So
she was top billed.
Yeah, she is.
What is her name?
Ana de la Reguera.
Okay.
Reguera.
All right.
Sorry if I butchered your name, Anna or Anna.
Todd will pay you $5 if you complain.
Well, just send me your address.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so not a really high caliber, well-known cast, but a few people, as Todd mentioned. So, what was this movie all about? Well, we told you what the Purge is. Oh, excuse me, little sleepy time action there. So yeah, the movie starts out with a new government has been elected in the United States, and
it's called the FF something. FF.
NF. I thought there was an N.
There's a lot of F's in there. Yeah. Is what I kept hearing.
NFFCQ. Well, anyway, I don't think they ever explain what those letters mean, um, but yeah, the first thing that happens is everyone's getting ready for a purge to happen. So, most people are kind of like rich people are like locking down in their homes and like metal shutters are coming down and stuff like that and blocking everything out. And then some poorer people are kind of banding together and going into like a protective area. Um, and then there's people who want to participate in the purge who are out on the streets doing violence and murders and stuff. And you start to see like the symbol in places, and you're like, oh, that doesn't seem very good.
Very ominous.
Yeah, very ominous symbol. And then, so the purge ends, and it's supposed to be like these 12 hours from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And that's it. And then things are supposed to be cleaned up and taken care of, and that starts to happen. And then then chaos starts to ensue. Slowly but surely, people are coming out of the woodwork and like doing something called Forever Purge, and you start to learn what that is throughout the movie. And it's these people who want more time to purge, more time to kill, and really we find out they're basically racists and xenophobes. They want to kill anyone who's not white. They want to kill anyone who's not born in America, and they're terrible racists. And so that's the setup for the story and what's going on. And what happens is we meet before, during, and after the first purge. We meet a group of people. A couple of them are or two or three of them are rich people, and they own a ranch and work on a ranch. And then there are two or three Mexican immigrants who, two of them work on the ranch, and one of them is married to another Mexican immigrant who works in like a
slaughterhouse
or something like that, some kind of butcher shop or something. They're processing meat. So that's kind of the main, I guess, 6 characters of the movie. And once the Forever Purge thing starts happening, they kind of band together and try and figure out what to do. And eventually they decide to they're in Texas, and they decide to head for the Mexican border, because Mexico has said, we'll take in anyone for like 6 hours or something, then we're closing the border, as like things are degenerating in the United States.
Right.
And so the rest of the movie is kind of about their journey, and they get split up and they get back together, and they, the border ends up closing, and then how are they going to get across? And but basically it's the story of their journey to try and get to Mexico, where in kind of a flip the script idea about what's happening in America, Mexico turns out the place to be, and people are trying to cross the border to get into Mexico. So,
yes,
I think that covers all the sort of major non-spoiler plot,
the important stuff,
action,
for sure.
And so I will turn it over to you, Todd, to give your gut reaction to this movie, The Forever Purge.
Well, I'm going to start by saying I completely expected to really be so not interested in this movie. Had never seen one of the other purges, had never really wanted to see any of the purges. We had a bad selection of movies tonight, but we pressed on for you, the adoring public and our fans. We needed to put out content, so we had 2 movies. We both were not excited to see either, and we did flip a gift card, and The Purge won, so it was destiny.
Yeah.
So, that being said, while I hate the subject matter of this kind of movie, and honestly, I'm sure, it feels like to me they didn't really even like have a plan to do another Purge movie, but then the stuff in Washington happened in January, and I really feel like that inspired this movie. And I could just be reaching, but honestly, it just feels like it all kinds of lines up. It's basically what you have happening, just on a all over the U.S. basis instead of just the capital.
Right.
So that, I mean, I don't think that enhanced the movie or subtracted from it, but it, I don't know, made it hit more close to home than maybe. I mean, like, they definitely had a point. There's definitely a point for this movie. Like, they were like, we're not just doing another Purge movie just to have a Purge movie. Like, we're really going to throw out some political statements in this movie, which is fine, good, all that great stuff. But this movie is better than I thought it was. Than I thought it was going to be. I really didn't think I would at all be engaged, but I was pretty engaged. I was following the story. It was very cliche in some areas, but then also, like, you know, pretty thought-provoking in other areas. I mean, it's kind of like an up and down roller coaster. There's racism, and there's, you know, people facing their prejudices, and maybe some people rethinking their stance on different things, and all that kind of stuff. It's just encased in violence. Like all these lessons are taught basically through extreme violence, and seeing, you know, I guess the counter thing is that you see the worst in humanity in America in this movie, and you slightly see the best that America could be. Like, you see what we could be if we all just are selfish, racist jerks, or you see what can happen when we all work together and don't think anyone's better than anyone else, and we just, like, you know, decide to, hey, we all are trying to live our lives. So the acting is pretty okay. Like, I didn't think there was any, like, downright horribly acting, but I also don't think that there was, like, anything. No one's winning an Oscar for being in this movie. Some weird scenes where the audio was not connected like it should be. Like, they dubbed some line-ins and no one's moving their mouths, and that was a little awkward. Like, so I guess that would fall under the editing. Like, I don't think this movie's that well edited. But, you know, like, it's an engaging story, and, you know, honestly, I don't know if Purge fans who have watched all the other movies, if this is, like, if they're going to watch this movie and like it. Because unless I missed a beat, like, all the other ones seem just about violence and stuff like that. And this one had such more deeper roots to it and meaning. So, but, you know, you're here to hear what we think, and maybe use this to decide if you want to see the movie, maybe not in theaters or streaming, or maybe you want to go to the theater. So I'm going to say, if you got time and you want either to pass the time by putting on a movie, or, like, this is something you're really interested in, I say watch it. Like, if you're not a fan of action and some pretty intense action, you can skip this one. Not for you. There's plenty of head trauma, so our friend Ed should not see this movie. But, you know, like, I don't know what my number is going to be exactly right now, but it's definitely going to be a little above average, which is, I'm very surprised. One might say I'm pleasantly surprised, but we'll see. So that's me. Matt, what do you think about this Purging Forever?
Well, I think that, like you, I came into this watching this movie with very low expectations of how good a movie it could be. And like you, I was also pleasantly surprised. I thought that the story was very engaging, and there were all these little kind of nuanced points about, you know, commentary on America and the state of things and how divided we are, and really almost a chilling vision of what things, like, if everything went bad, if everything went down the road that a lot of people maybe are traveling in their minds, like what could happen,
Yeah.
and in that way, I think they portrayed something that people need to think about, and people need to like say, pull the reins on this horse,
Yeah.
pump the brakes on this train, because if this is the result, it's super bad times for America. Now, we don't have anything like a purge, but there are people who think this way. In fact, as I was telling you just a few minutes ago, Todd, I think there's like this one part where these during the purge night, the original purge night, there's these super, like, the precursors of the Forever Purgers come in their little purge wagons with speakers on and stuff like that, and saying horrible things. And there was one guy in the theater who started, like, he was excited to see these like racist purge wagons come in, and like cheered in the theater when they came on the scene. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it there. Maybe he was just like excited about the purge and like something happening. I don't know.
Wanted to see some destruction and death or something.
But
it doesn't help that he's white.
It was
white.
Yeah, it was it's pretty suspect.
Yeah.
What happened there. But anyway, that's a side trail, but a little thing that did happen in our theater. But yeah, I think the story and the execution of the story and the commentary on America are the highlights to me of this movie. It is quite violent. If you have a problem with violence or you don't enjoy violence, this probably isn't the movie for you. Even if you're interested in social commentary on America. But I agree. I think the acting was good. They did have some like weird choices that they employed a lot about, like camera usage.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple different times where they do like this camera shot where it's inside a vehicle that then the vehicle rolls over.
Yeah.
Because it's crashing. And that happened a couple times, and there's a couple other times where like you suddenly go inside someone's head and the camera is like what they're seeing after like a big explosion or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a little disorienting. So I think someone got a little happy with like, I can do this cool camera trick and I'm going to do it over and over.
Someone discovered something new and they were like, here we go.
Right. So I thought those were a little distracting, but yeah, so technically the movie's maybe not as tight as it could be. But yeah, I think it still turns out to be certainly better than I thought, but even a decent example of like a chase kind of getaway type movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked it, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Well, how many? Let's see here. How many? How many? I'm trying to work in the fact that we got Native Americans in this movie too. Like,
yeah.
How many? I wish I could remember what the guys. How many crossbows would you give this? Give this movie?
There are some crossbows. That do take.
I was trying to. The main Native American uses like an axe type thing, but I don't think
Yeah.
But I don't think it's straight up an axe. I don't know what it's called. So.
Like a tomahawk.
It looked weirder than a tomahawk to me, but maybe it's still a tomahawk. I don't know. But here we are, crossbows.
Crossbows.
He definitely used it at one point. So.
Right on.
Obviously, five crossbows being the best because you can either do the most damage you want or protect the most people you want, and 0 being bad because then if you're in a purge, well,
Yeah.
you got no defense.
I did have a little bit of a problem with the fact that crossbows were only brought onto the scene when we got to Native Americans fighting.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit of a like throwback or throw forward stereotypical thing. Like, oh, it's a Native American. Obviously, they'll use some kind of bow and arrow system.
Yeah.
And
not just a
did.
crossbow, but then a regular compound bow with
Right.
arrows that had dynamite strapped to them.
Yes. Yes. Little stereotypical there, but I did enjoy the execution of the dynamite arrows. So, all that being said, on a scale of 0 to 5 crossbows, I'm going to come in with a 3.0 for this movie. This type of movie, your kind of bloodfest horror / violence movie is
Sure.
going to have a hard time climbing up the ranks as like a great movie. But I think this was a good movie and certainly a good example of what they were trying to do. So yeah, I'd say if you don't have a big problem with violence and you are thinking about how America is right now, I would encourage you to watch this movie. And I would say that it's even a decent movie. So 3 crossbows from me. Todd?
Well, it has not happened in a while, but it's going to happen tonight. I also am landing on a 3.0.
Okay.
I try to have my number picked before you say yours, just so that there's no contamination.
Right.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that play in this movie. Like, I mean, the people who have problems with violence and a little bit of gore and stuff like that, you know, I think you should probably stay clear. We've given you an adequate warning here.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of things at work here that are at least interesting to think about. Not just like, you know, is this the progression of our country as people get more and more like, this is ours, you know, we don't share it, we don't want the immigrants here, like blah, blah, blah. But also, they don't at all come out and say this, but it's also the logical progression of if we continue to have unreasonable gun laws of uprisings like this are such a legit thing that could happen if you could basically own almost any gun you want to.
Right.
Which, I mean, that is kind of what happens when the uprising of these people who just want America for Americans or whatever happens is, guess what? They all got automatic rifles.
Right.
And they're all, you know, dishing out some carnage. So, yeah, so I'm at a 3.0. I think it's definitely a thought-provoking movie. So if like I said, if the violence stuff doesn't bother you, I think you should watch it. You know, think about it, see where you land on it.
Yeah.
It's weird to me to think that this kind of movie could potentially stop someone and go, like, make them think and be like, wow, maybe I'm on the wrong side of history.
Right.
Like, but I could totally see this movie doing that for people, some people.
Right.
Like it's
the
just crazy.
the dude who cheered in the theater, how was he feeling at the end of the movie
Yeah,
when the people that he was cheering for are totally like disgraced?
Yeah. So, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed the movie The Forever Purge.
Yeah.
And we gave it an average rating of 3.0 because we both gave it a rating of 3.0. So 3.0 crossbows
And we're very pleasantly surprised.
We were. I'm glad that the card landed on Forever Purge instead of the other movie.
Yeah. Well, let's not put it past them. We were not going to see the other movie.
Well, we might.
We have no idea.
But thank you, listeners, for listening. Please keep doing that. Keep downloading our podcast, and we'll keep making it. And we'll see you next time.
Oh, we should also just sign off and be like, be nice to each other. Like,
yes.
let's all be good to one another and not be jerks and racist and, you know, like, person next to you, guy next to you is your brother, girl next to you is your sister. Come on. Let's be better, humanity. Let's not purge.
Be better.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.